Let's take a look at human resource development needs. Needs assessment or needs analysis is a process by which an organization's HRD needs are identified and articulated. With this information, HRD professionals learn where and what kinds of programs or interventions are needed, who needs to be included in them, and whether there are currently any roadblocks to their effectiveness. However, despite its importance, many organizations do not perform a needs assessment as frequently or thoroughly as they might. A needs assessment can be difficult, time consuming, and labor intensive process. Managers often decide to use their limited resources to develop, acquire, and deliver HRD programs rather than to do something they see as a preliminary activity. Although it's possible to improve the organization's effectiveness without accurate needs assessment information, the results are by no means guaranteed. In this context, the concept of need typically refers to a discrepancy or gap between what an organization expects to happen and what actually occurs. These discrepancies may become the foundation of a training or HRD need. Diagnostic needs focus on factors that lead to effective performance and prevent performance problems rather than emphasizing existing problems. The goal is to determine how effective performance is obtained. Analytical needs, on the other hand, identify new or better ways to perform tasks. These needs are generally discovered by intuition, insight, or expert consideration. Compliance needs are those needs mandated by law. They most often involve mandated training programs such as safety training, food handling, or compliance with healthcare regulation. Needs can exist on any of at least three levels, considering the organization, the job, and the individual. To ensure an effective HRD effort, needs must be measured on each level. Strategic or organizational analysis suggests where in the organization training is needed and under what conditions it will occur. Task analysis explains what must be done to perform a job or complete a process successfully. Person analysis reviews who needs to be trained and what kind of training they need. Needs assessment at the organizational level is usually conducted by performing an organizational analysis. Organizational analysis is a process used to better understand the characteristics of an organization to determine where training and HRD efforts are needed and the conditions under which they should be conducted. This type of analysis requires a broad view of an organization and what it's trying to accomplish. This might include goals and objectives, reward systems, planning systems, delegation and control systems, and communication systems. Understanding an organization's goals and strategies provides a starting point in identifying the effectiveness of the organization. Effective areas can be used as models and as a source of ideas for how things can be done more effectively in other areas. Areas where goals are not being met should be examined further and targeted for HRD or other appropriate effort. An awareness of organizations' resources is useful in establishing HRD needs. Knowledge of resources such as facilities, materials on hand, and the expertise within the organization influences how HRD is conducted. If the climate is not conducive to HRD, designing and implementing a program will be difficult. For example, if managers and employees don't trust one another, employees may not participate fully and freely in a training program. Communicating the link between HRD activities and the organization's strategic plan to operating managers and employees makes the importance of HRD programs clear and may help generate support. Strategic and organizational analysis can lead to tailored training and HRD programs that fit the needs of the organization. Task analysis is used to determine what employees should be taught to achieve optimal performance. Results of a task analysis typically include the appropriate standards of performance, how tasks should be performed, and the knowledge, skills, and abilities that employees need to possess in order to meet their standards. The first step in the process is developing a description of the job. A job description is a narrative statement of the major activities involved in performing a job and the conditions under which these activities are performed. A job analysis is a systematic study of a job to identify its major components. The job analysis process generally involves observing a job being performed, examining the outcomes, and reviewing relevant literature about the job. Sometimes, the task portion of the job analysis is referred to as the job description, whereas the KSA portion is called the job specification. However, both task and KSA portions are generally included in written job descriptions. Next, task identification focuses on behaviors performed within a job. In task identification, the major tasks within the job are determined and clearly described. Successful task performance requires that employees possess the KSAs to perform the task. It's these competencies that employees must develop or acquire during the training program. Next, identify the areas that can be most benefited from the training. The tasks and KSAs receiving the highest ratings should be considered the primary candidates for inclusion in HRD programs. Finally, it should be clear which tasks and KSAs could benefit from training. These should be prioritized to determine which ones should be addressed first. Task analysis focuses on the job rather than on the individual doing the job. Person analysis is directed at determining the training needs of the individual employee. The focus is typically on how well each employee is performing key job tasks. Someone who can observe the employee's performance on a regular basis is the best position to conduct a person analysis. An evaluation approach called 360-degree performance appraisal uses a variety of sources to get a complete picture of an employee's performance. Summary person analysis involves determining the overall success of individual employee performance. Diagnostic person analysis ties to discover the reasons for an employee's performance. Effective performers may be the source for ideas on how to improve employee performance, whereas analysis of ineffective performers can identify what interventions are needed to improve performance. Performance appraisal can be a valuable tool for collecting person analysis data. However, because of frequent tendency to focus largely on the negatives, appraisals often don't live up to their potential. Person analysis data are also used to define development needs, which can be identified during the periodic performance evaluation. The primary use of developmental data is for maintaining and increasing the knowledge, skills, and abilities of each employee. Another source of information for training needs is employees themselves. Assuming that a needs assessment reveals multiple needs, management and the HRD staff must prioritize needs. As in any organizational functions, decisions must be made about what resources, including facilities, equipment, materials, skilled personnel, travel, and consultant fees, would be used in HRD. A central question to ask in the process is, what is the potential gain or return on investment from various options? Because HRD programs are intended to serve a specific area or areas of an organization, representatives from those areas should have the input in the decision. With this input, there's a greater likelihood that more employees will perceive that HRD programs are relevant to the organization and to themselves. One way to continuously reflect the needs of employees and assist in prioritizing needs is to establish an HRD advisory committee. The role of this committee is to review needs assessment and offer advice on the type and content of HRD programs to be offered. The advisory committee should be composed of members from a cross-section of the organization. This includes the recognition that meeting times may take place away from employees' job responsibilities. A thorough needs assessment establishes the foundation for an HRD or training program. A review of over 100 articles on e-learning found two glaring problems pertaining to needs assessment: the failure to identify a real need for e-learning and a failure to fully analyze the problem or need, even when it was identified. One other area that's likely to have broad implications for HR in general, and assessment in particular, is the growing use of mobile or wireless technology. Many current e-learning providers do not make sufficient use of needs assessment tools.